Hey, it's Zim, and today we're checking out New World. Now, this game is in closed beta, and will be in closed beta until kind of the beginning of August, where it'll go out of closed beta and the game officially releases at the end of August. So, of course, some of these things might change based on feedback, and based on things that they're probably working on already, but weren't ready to release to the public yet. However, I'm going to go over my initial impressions on it, the things I liked, the things I didn't like, and whether or not I think you should pick it up when it comes out, or maybe hold off on it. Anyways, we're going to jump into a character I've probably played about 5-6 hours on, so not too in-depth on a lot of things, but enough to just kind of get the basic grasps and the initial player feel for those systems. So, I'll jump us right in. And here we are in the town. This is my character here. I will say that while being in towns, we have probably a less high frame rate. When I'm out in the open world, I'd say it's on average about 60 frames per second, which is kind of where my VSync sets the frame rate anyway. And then when I'm in towns that are busy and there's a lot of players, it will drop to about 30. Just let me know that we have skill points, so it's perfect time to show you what the attribute system looks like. Every time you level up, you'll be given skill points. You can put these in whatever skill you would like, and as you can see, each skill has weapons related to it, other than Constitution, which is obviously just health. Strength is Sword and Shield, Great Axe, Warhammer, Hatchet, and Spear. Now you'll also notice that Spear, Hatchet, and Sword and Shield are also present in Dexterity. So if you hover over these question marks here, it'll tell you the primary attribute for them, which is obviously the main stat that's going to affect most of its damage, but it'll also tell you the secondary stat. So in this case, while Spear is listed as Strength, it's only Spear's secondary stat, while Spear is also listed under Dexterity, which is its primary stat. So obviously some of these weapons have multiple stats, which you'll want to put points in, or at least have bonus points given to you via equipment, kind of like I have with Intelligence or Dexterity already. I will say, when you first start out, you're given free reign on however you want to put points into anything. And it's kind of the first problem you encounter because, for me anyway, I was like, cool, I want to try out this sweet Ice Gauntlet. So I'm going to put my points into Intelligence. Now, they give you a Sword and Shield to start. You don't get to choose a weapon to start, but I figured it would probably eventually give me a weapon to choose from, which it never does. So what happened was I kept putting points into Intelligence, and I never got a magic weapon, meaning this Fire Staff, or Ice Gauntlet, or Rapier, or Musket, that it would scale with. And so I felt like I was doing less damage. Now that's an initial problem because I generally believe that you want to give the player the best experience possible, and you do that by allowing them to customize and try out things as they want to. So, while it starts with the Sword and Shield and gets you used to the combat, which is great, they should also give you a quest where it allows you to choose one of the basic weapons from any of the trees. That way you can start to feel whether or not you're going to like those weapons. Now, this is a minor complaint because, as you can see, there's a respec button. Now, at least in closed beta, and I don't see this changing, and I hope it doesn't change, but respecs are free until level 20, which means you can respec your attributes whenever you want, for free, anytime you want. Whether you're in a town or even in the world. As long as you're not in combat, you can change your skills. I will also note that, here we'll hit respec here, when I had put all my points into Intelligence, because I eventually got that Ice Gauntlet, and I was sweet, ready to put all my points into Intelligence, do a ton of damage. I hit commit, started attacking with that Ice Gauntlet, and realized it was kind of doing very similar damage to before, when I didn't have any points put into Intelligence, before I had respec and just kind of tried it out a little bit. So I did some experimenting, respec again, took all my points out of Intelligence, and put them all into Constitution. Now, obviously, I still have some gear giving me some points, but for the most part, I had no skill points in there. And what happened was, my damage dropped by 6 points. So not a major amount. Now, obviously, that will add up as you get higher and higher in levels in game, but in the early game, these attribute points are really not going to make or break you. Maybe in PvP it might make the difference, but in PvE, it's not. Now, you'll notice, if we look at Constitution, my health is 1,059, but if I put all my points in Constitution, I would get to 1,609. Now, I will say health is a much better resource to have, especially while leveling, because you're going to take damage, and combat's a little bit awkward. I'll show you a little bit later of how it feels, but it definitely feels a little bit awkward, and having more health to just survive things is kind of important. However, you'll also note these little dots. These are milestones, and as you get enough points into them, you'll gain bonuses both to skills like fishing or crafting skills, essentially, but also towards like combat abilities, right? So plus 10% damage to light and heavy magic attacks seems like a good thing to have. And I'll show you the weapons. Now, I've played around with most of these weapons. Haven't played around with the musket. I have played around with the warhammer, but I wasn't using it in combat. Haven't really played around with the spear, but I've played around the fire staff and the hatchet. So I've played around with most of these. And as you can see, you gain XP for the weapon you're using. The more comfortable you are with it, and so you'll unlock different abilities. Currently, I'm using the rapier. Probably the weapon I like the most outside of sword and shield. Sword and shield feels the best out of all the weapons, at least to me. I feel like it also has been given the most time in terms of like just customization and what they focus on, because they know they're starting you with the sword and shield. It flows the best. It feels the best. However, I can unlock skills. Some are big skills. Some are small skills. And as you can note, we only have 3 abilities active at a time, but you have 2 weapons equipped. Similar to like Elder Scrolls Online, if you've ever played that. You'll be able to swap weapons in combat. However, it's not as free-flowing as Elder Scrolls Online is. In fact, as you can see, I'm attacking with my base weapon, and if I wanted to switch, I could switch. But there's about a second to 2 seconds where it takes time for you to actually do the animation to switch. So if I'm mid-attack and I'm trying to switch, but then I attack again, it doesn't attack with the new weapon. It's still thinking I'm on the original weapon, which is a problem. I will also say that I encountered a bug, which will hopefully not be in the main game, but it essentially didn't allow me to do light attacks at all. Tapping your left mouse button, of course, does light attacks. Holding the right mouse button will block, and holding the left mouse button will do a heavy attack. But in addition to that, we have our abilities. And each weapon is obviously going to have unique ones. The animations are fine. Generally, the visuals are pretty nice, pretty decent. Obviously, low fantasy style, which I enjoy. The audio for this game is phenomenal. There are echoes when you're mining, depending on the environment of how close it is to other things. Everything has really great audio to it, and the soundtrack is really good too. Things that I really enjoy. I don't like the jumping. I feel like it's the awkward feeling of like you just like hit something and then suddenly drop, but obviously I'm not hitting anything. It just feels awkward as we have this random player out here. It just, yeah, the jumping feels weird. You'll also notice your legs flail about, especially as you jump, which just isn't, that drives me nuts when I see video games do it. Because, I mean, like, I don't know about you, but when I jump, my legs don't flail about like that. Like, just flailing. Drives me crazy. Anyway, as you can see, we're going to move into town, and there are 3 covenants. So, right above that guy was purple. He is part of the Syndicate. I say covenants. I guess they're factions, because I'm part of the faction that is called the Covenant, which is kind of the church or a holy order. And then, of course, there's the Marauders, which are kind of mercenaries for hire. This is one of the kind of central beginning towns. And as you can see, there's tons of different crafting stations. Crafting in this game is very good, and that is obviously one of its main focuses. It is definitely a crafting intensive game. And early on, you will be fighting a lot for those nodes, and if you're just doing PvE, it's going to be kind of racing to try to get them. Fiber was definitely one of the hard ones to find, as only hemp could drop fiber, and hemp seemed to spawn very rarely, at least in the zone it started me in. But you also have the ability to design armor, and the better you get at it, the more recipes you'll have access to. Kind of what you would expect. There are resources that you'd use, and then special resources to give you additional effects, whether they affect perks or stat abilities. One thing to note about this game is there is no real vendors. Everything is open market. So if you want to sell something or buy something, you go to the trading post, and that's where you'll do it. So what do you do with useless items that obviously aren't going to sell and are clogging up your inventory? Because you do have a weight limit, and you'll notice you'll hit that pretty quickly as you're doing crafting stuff and gathering a ton of resources. Well, you can hover over one of these and salvage it. If you salvage it, what it'll do is give you repair parts and a little bit of gold. Obviously not even a gold. Repair parts will allow you to repair your equipment, are necessary to repair your equipment, so they do serve a purpose. However, you will not be making a ton of money by just trying to salvage everything. You'll have to either try to sell on the market, or most likely do crafting things and use that higher crafting to sell to other people. Now, you notice I turned on PvP. That is done very easily by pressing U, and it'll give you a flash. PvP disabled, PvP enabled. This is war between the three factions. I feel like this is very forced and contrived. I'm not a fan of it. There's no reason for these factions to be fighting at all. Like, they're all advertising in the same town. They all seem to get along, but once you get out into the open world, then you're, like, killing each other. It's just a way to have PvP in this game, and I feel like they could have done a better job of implementing it into the story of why we're fighting over things, other than to just claim it in our zones. As we look at these zones, I do have some problems with it. I don't know if this is just closed beta, but these are level 6 areas, and we have level 25 events popping up. Now, that could be player-driven. That could be them just pushing it earlier so people can experience it in the closed beta. But obviously, if you're doing quests out here and collecting resources, and then suddenly a level 25 event kind of appears next to you and you just get killed, you're not going to have a great experience. Also, these major hub areas, they start as question marks on your map. They are just kind of points that you'll end up doing quests and stuff like that at, but a lot of these you'll get funneled towards based by your factions. This is probably to encourage open world PvP, and you'll feel the problem as you're trying to gather mobs, because certain quests will require you to kill and skin something specifically. Now, kills are always shared across multiple people who hit it, that's good, but only one person can skin it. So in the case of over here in Dankfur Hollow, when you're killing these wolves and they're asking you to skin them, you're going to be fighting over the corpse, so you're better off trying to find something that someone else hasn't killed. It causes some issues that a lot of MMOs kind of moved away from because it's not fun. I will also say I started in Fury Bay, and it funnels you very well towards the settlement. That's great. However, after I had explored a little bit and done some questing over here, I looked at the map and thought, well, I hadn't gone over to Cascade Harbor and checked it out. So I backtracked all the way there. And in this game, there are no mounts. You are walking. So I walked all the way over here. And suddenly these are level 23. Pretty rude awakening for a player whose beginning zones are, 1 and 2 level mobs. And these are level 6 and level 9 scattered around, and then back here is level 23. It feels like it punishes you for exploring, which is not a good thing to have. Now, I said there's no mounts, And that's true, however, there is fast travel. This game does not explain fast travel, or at least not in the closed beta, at the level I was at, because I wandered down to this town, and then decided to fast travel back to my original settlement, and then when I wanted to go back here, I quickly realized there was a resource tied to it. This resource is called Azoth. Now, Azoth is gathered through questing and killing certain mobs based on what I read online. The fact is, the game has yet to explain this resource to me 5 or 6 hours into the game, which is problematic. Now, I don't mind having these fast travel resources, but they do need to do a better job explaining it, because suddenly you could find yourself in a bad position. Because as you can see, there's storage that is actually independent, like a bank, at every settlement, meaning the storage I have in one settlement won't have the same items that I left from another settlement, which means if I want to get those items again, I'm going to have to either fast travel or walk all the way back there, which can be a problem if you left something back there and didn't realize there was a resource attached to fast traveling and suddenly you can't afford to anymore. Of course, there are also inns that you can rest at, which basically means you're assigning a room to yourself there, which is a Hearthstone, if you're familiar with World of Warcraft. Would allow you to teleport back to it for free, essentially, but you can only do that once every hour. You also have territory standings, which is a really cool system that I like, which is as you do things, you're gaining reputation, but also helping the settlement, and so they'll give you bonuses. So in this case, I have bonus to storage capacity, XP gain, and gathering. So that's a really cool system. I like that. It means you're impacting these people specifically and not some people who've never heard of you up north somewhere. I think that's a really cool system. I really enjoy that. And jump out of this map and let's go find some enemies to attack. So as you can see, almost everything in the world is available to be harvested in one way or the other. Some take very little time. Others will take more time, like hitting this boulder. And as you can hear, that beautiful echo for the sound design. And those echoes will change based on positioning and how close they are to other objects. It's really great. I really love the sound design for this game. However, we got a wolf over there. Oh, a boar, and it looks like someone else is farming this area. 23. So he's probably just trying to rank up some sort of skill. I will say that's going to be an issue later if there are high level or higher level players farming areas in low levels to rank up skills, and they're just going to kill a ton of mobs that other people can't get. Another thing you can do is set up camps like that over there. These camps are essentially respawn points if you were to die. A cool thing, you can also do some basic crafting at those, which is sweet. Do some more harvesting of this boulder here. And it looks like an event just spawned near me. Now, this level 25 event, and you'll notice a lot of these enemies around here are not 25, they're level 4. So I do have worries about that system. If this is just so players can try it, it's no problem, right? But if it's not, it's going to be a problem. There's this wolf, and that player's going to attack it. Enemies you can skin and harvest, both for meat, which you can cook, for food, which will be passive healing, and getting kind of well-rested buffs. And also, obviously, skin or hide, which will allow you to. Here's another wolf. We'll try that. So, enemies will attack. You can attack back. You can block. Abilities can be, unfortunately, easily dodged because enemies just move out of the way, and you get locked into these attack patterns, which doesn't feel great. It feels actually quite awkward. Like, notice that lunge, I have no real control over, and they quickly just move out of the way. So, I do have some problems with how this combat feels. Now, I'm a big Elder Scrolls Online fan, and in that, the combat can definitely feel a little bit floaty. This combat, when you're hitting things, feels very weighty and very good, but the rest of it doesn't feel good. often you get locked into animations where you end up missing, or even worse, you feel like you and your enemy are just doing your own thing and just doing it near each other. So a wolf might be doing its attack animations, but your attack animations that are hitting it doesn't feel like it's really impacting it at all, which to me isn't great. I want the enemy to make me react to them, and for the enemy to react to me when I'm doing certain abilities. But we're gonna go ahead and show off the bow. We got a wolf here, so we can obviously do little light shots here, or we can do free aim with the ranged weapons, which is really cool. I will also note that the enemy aggro gets pretty weird. Someone else can attack an enemy, and it might still just stay aggroed to you. Or as you can see, that wolf was running away because it took enough damage, but then might then automatically start attacking another player. Now, that just might be early access closed beta bugs that will go away, but it is something to stay kind of aware of, is that some of the enemy AI just kind of acts weirdly. Enemy respawns are really high right now. I expect that to be the case in the official game launch. But we're going to go ahead and jump up here. As you can see, these trees would require logging at a higher rate than what I have. Obviously, this is 100. So you have the desire and want to get better at crafting. It's definitely something that if you're really into crafting, this game might be really for you, because it definitely has a lot of heavy crafting aspects. Now, from what we know, there is no... See, that lunge often misses, which feels really bad. And enemies will just move out of here. It feels awkward. It feels like the enemy isn't attached to the same rules the player is, and that just feels weird for a lot of these weapons. I feel like a lot of these weapons feel bad. Sword and shield feel great. Rapier is mediocre, but a lot of these weapons just feel bad. But as I was saying, we don't know, we don't believe there is a subscription fee, and so if there's no subscription fee, I feel like this game has a chance at having a decent longevity towards it. And that's because if you're not paying money outside of the upfront fee, you're more likely to come back and check it out every now and then and see what the game's up to. This game also feels like it's meant for PvP players. I feel like if you're into PvP, this might be for you. And that arrow got stuck midair, so that doesn't feel great. So there are still quirks and bugs in this game, but as you level up skills for your bow, you'll unlock new skills. Sorry, as you level up XP points, basically by using the weapon, you get new skills, I should say. And so we can see we have a evade shot or a penetrating shot. We'll do penetrating shot, why not? And it'll automatically assign to it, but obviously you can change that as you want. There's apparently a dead tree here, and that's probably what caught my arrow, is that it just didn't load in. What a not great showing there. Now you'll notice health does not regenerate. It will only regenerate if you're eating food. You can do so via assigning it after cooking food. Obviously, you start with very basic recipes, but if you're leveling up your cooking, you will be able to use higher and higher food stuff. So in this case, we have travel rations, and I can use those, and it will give me a benefit. Unfortunately, this wolf spawned right away, so I automatically lost all of that healing. And that feels really bad. Enemies can also drop loot, as you'd expect. This loot might be apparently nothing. It's a spear. We'll check out the spear, why not? But let's skin this wolf. If you're encumbered, as you can see, I am right now, it means that you cannot move fast and you cannot dodge. That's going to be important to not have happen, so you're going to want to not be encumbered ever, really. Especially if you have yourself flagged for PvP, you will be very sad. We are going to try to discard this. And that should put us back. Alright. Let's go ahead and show off 2 other weapons. In this case, we just got a spear. And we have a magic staff. So, once again, kind of locks you into things. The magic weapons I really am not a fan of, because it just shoots an orb out. Not very interesting or very fun, and leaves you very prone to other enemies attacking you. You can block with it, but obviously it's not a great block weapon, but blocking is important. But yeah, it just feels weird, and the animations act weird. A lot of the magic weapons are just this, just a variant of this. The healing staff shoots out a ball as well, though the animation is not nearly as awkward as this one. And then the ice gauntlet is the exact same thing. And then hopefully what you do is you would unlock spells, and hopefully those spells do more. Now I will say that I've unlocked the ice gauntlet spell, and this did less damage than my basic attack, even though it wasn't supposed to, because the enemies don't seem to get like hit properly by it. So that could be an issue with the closed beta, or it could just be an issue going into the main game, so it's something to be aware of as well. So, final thoughts on this game, New World. I think New World is interesting, but I don't think a lot of people are going to stick with it after the first month. I think there's going to be the new game hype. Everyone's going to jump on the train. Everyone's going to grind to the end game. And if the end game just isn't going to perform, and even if it does perform, a lot of people are just going to go back to the MMOs they're already playing. FF14, World of Warcraft being the 2 juggernauts, right? It's where everyone's already invested a ton of time. I would recommend, if you're big into crafting, this game might be for you. And if there is no subscription fee, then it's definitely not a bad buy if there's a large player base. However, I would really recommend waiting, and I don't mean just a day or 2 to see people's reactions, but a week or 2, and seeing once everyone's reached endgame and what endgame looks like, and also what the store looks like. There's a store already in here. We're given this resource. I'm guessing this is just for the closed beta, just to try it out. Now, all these are skins or dyes, so obviously not player power related, but could transcend to player power later on after the first week or 2. Or it could be who knows what. It could be level skips or XP buffs or something. We don't know what these microtransactions are going to look like officially until it releases, and then they might, well, they're obviously going to add more as the game goes on, and so those might get worse over time. So I would say New World is definitely, for me at least, a recommendation to wait a week or 2 and see how the community actually settles in with the game, and what end game content and what longevity this game actually has. Anyways, guys, thanks for watching. Let me know in the comments below if you've checked out New World, or if you're planning to, or if you've played in the closed beta. Also, hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. It really helps me out, and I'll talk to you guys later.